You have an asset inside of your clinic right now that could be generating you patients every single week, and I guarantee you're not using it. And I'm talking about your list. And so today I'm going to give you a complete masterclass on your text and email list, how to build the list, how to work the list, the do's and don'ts, and ultimately best practices of list marketing. If you're new here, all we do is talk about how to scale health and wellness clinics up to $200,000 a month. And we built these systems for quite literally over 500 clinics in the last 6 years of running our company. And as a result, have generated millions of dollars in profit for our clients. And so if you're a returning viewer, you've already been here before. So welcome into another banger, grab a notepad, and let's dive in. Every lead on your list costs money to acquire, and it's a sunk cost at this point. The question is whether you are gonna use that sunk cost to your advantage to generate leads and patients, or you're just gonna let it sit there in isolation. And so when you're running ads, to build a lead list, okay? Cold traffic ads can cost anywhere from $20 to $100 per lead, okay? And obviously that's gonna be conditional on the offer, the lifetime value, all that kind of stuff, but anywhere from $20 to $100 per lead. Now let's say for easy math that you have 1,000 people on your list and you do a reactivation campaign, okay? And you reactivate 2% of the list. And with that, you magically have you have 20 patients. Okay? Now what's awesome about that is it was already sunk. So these patients that came from the list basically appear out of thin air. Now if you have an LTV of at least $500, you have effectively, between these two assets, you've generated yourself a potential of 10K in upside. Now, I know you're watching this and you're like, well, Jeff, I'm not gonna convert all these people, all that kind of stuff. Correct. But even if you converted half of the people at 5K, there you go. Now all of a sudden you took $0 because it costs basically $0 to work a list. You've generated 20 leads. Of those, 10 became patients, $500 lifetime value. You have generated yourself $5,000 for basically $0.00, okay? Big fat zeros, because there's a sunk cost already. Now there might be some of you also that are watching where like, well, it's not a sunk cost, man. I paid money for those leads. Well, it's like you absolutely did pay money for those leads. But as of right now, you're not working the leads. So like for right now, you're getting zero from the list that you paid for. In this case, you at least make money from the list that you paid for. And so it's important to understand that this is not just like a nice to have, okay? That's not what this is. This is a bank, okay? And some of the businesses in the world that are the most profitable, sell for the most, they have very large lists, okay? So let's break down an actual email system that can work for you. So the first thing to do is you have to actually continue to build the list. Okay, so the reality of email marketing is that for every email that you send, you will lose subscribers. Okay, the subscriber count will go down with every email that you send, and that's normal. That's just like how lists work. So the more frequently you email, the faster the subscriber count goes down. So you always need to be replenishing the list, okay? And by replenishing, I mean that you have to be adding people to the list. Now, how can you possibly add people to the list? Well, the first thing that you can do, you can run ads. Okay, every time that you run ads and get leads, you're adding to your list. Okay, another thing that you can do is you can do audience trading. Okay, audience trading is basically where you partner with somebody, and as a result, let's say you're doing like a combined webinar, and then you say, hey, listen, I'm willing to promote my webinar on my email list as long as you promote it on your email list. And then in return, we both get shared traffic from each other's lists, okay? That's audience trading or shared list, okay? Those are the top two ways to build any email list. Now, you can certainly go and do it a little bit slower and do like events, okay? Maybe you have a lot of traffic on like your Instagram, and then you're able to drive them to like your bio. And then in the bio is a link to basically join your list, okay? A lot of different ways to build. But the most important thing is that if you increase your frequency of email, your subscriber unsubscribed will go down, unsub, okay? So you have to always be replenishing that list. Now, as far as the actual breakdown, okay, of what's called list segmentation, okay, you can get extremely granular on this, okay, by the way. So I'm only gonna get so deep, but for companies that are literally doing tens of millions of dollars a month, tens of millions of dollars a year, they will have a lot of segments of their list, like people who have recently engaged, people who have opened emails in the last 48 hours, people who have opened emails in the last 24 hours, people that have bought in the last 90 days but haven't bought the upsell, right? So that's list segmentation. In simple terms though, the basic that you want to do is you want to have your buyers. Okay, so those are like active clients. Okay, you also want to have non-buyers. And then you also, I like to have a list of most active buyers. Okay, now the list that you're going to be using the most is the non-buyer, but we're going to talk a little bit about the buyer and the most active buyers as well. So the first thing that we do, okay, is we look at the non-buyers. So what types of emails can we send these individuals? Well, we like to do one that's called a hammer them. This came from my mentor, shout out to Jeremy Haynes. It's called hammer them sequence. Okay, and basically what that is when they become a lead, immediately they're given a bunch of emails. Especially if they end up booking a consultation, they're given a bunch of emails to warm them up to the business. Okay, so that's called a hammer them sequence. So once they become an opportunity, we want to give them as much information as possible. Now within these emails, I broke down a whole different video actually earlier on the hammer them sequence a few moons ago, okay? But we're doing basic FAQ, we're doing objection handling, we're doing testimonials, okay? There's a lot of different assets that we include in this sequence here. But the hammer them sequence is to warm up somebody who's already expressed interest very recently, so someone who became like a recent lead or recently booked an appointment, and then you hammer them with educational-based content to answer their questions and move them closer to your business. The next type of email that you can send out to your non-buyers is the promo. Okay, so the promo emails are very basic. So you have your list, and you're basically going to be doing promo. Typically, we do 5 to 7 days a week. Okay, so let's just do 5. And then these are going to go out to your entire list of non-buyers. Okay? And with that, what you're going to do is you're going to offer them opportunities to book consults. Okay? So that would be like a direct offer. That'd be a straight promotional email. Now, what we like to do is we like to story tell in these. Okay? So we talk about the main leader of the company, or the main, like let's say maybe you're the owner watching this, but you have like a clinical director or something. So you'll have like leadership. Okay, you'll talk about stories of patients. You'll talk about objections that the prospective patient has that prevents them from coming into your business right now. And you'll just continue to talk about your offer in all these different ways, okay? So in some of the emails, you're gonna have like a very direct CTA, and then other ones you might have like an indirect CTA. And basically what that means is that an indirect CTA would be like a story and then a signature, and at the bottom it's going to be like, oh, by the way, or PS, and then you basically give someone an opportunity to book an appointment or do whatever the next step is you want them to be. The direct call to action would be like you're going to tell a story about a patient as an example, and then in that same email you're going to have a direct call to action for them to actually schedule if they want similar results to the person that you just described. Now the key to these promotional emails is frequency, okay? So depending on how big your list is, typically again we recommend anywhere between 5 to 7 times a week. We have found that volume equals results up to a certain point. Okay, if you have a list of like 100,000 people, you can email probably twice a day. If you have a list of only like 2K though, you probably only want to go, let's say 5 times a week. Okay. Okay. So if you have a lot of people, you can send more emails because you can accept the fact that you're going to lose a lot of subscribers. Okay. So the amount of emails that you can send is similar to like an aquifer. Okay. So like if you have this group right here and all of this is your email list filled with water and you're coming in and you're drilling out people from this list, okay, and then the water is naturally being replenished over here, okay? So water's coming in and then you're extracting out. Let me change colors here. So you're extracting out right here in the red. But what happens is like if you start trying to extract more out in terms of like appointments and leads from your list than is being replenished, eventually you'll run dry. So the amount of emails that you can send is conditional on how fast your list is being replenished. Because if you pull out, you'll naturally lose some every day. Okay, if they keep seeing you in the inbox and they're not interested, they'll unsubscribe, which is a good thing. But you don't want your list to get so small that you're just bombarding them at such a crazy rate that eventually you just run your list dry. Now, once you've got your promotional cycle down here, okay, you're basically you're talking about, someone on your team. Ideally, one of the best practices as well is you want the emails to come from a person. So the person is better than the company. Because at the end of the day, people do buy from companies on paper due to the IRS and having EINs and stuff. At the end of the day, they're buying from people that they know, like, and trust, okay? So if you can have one centralized person being that main character in the email, that can help over time in like warming people up to the business, because naturally when the law of repetition suggests that when people see the faces and read the names of people that they don't know, the more they read them, the more they feel like they know them. Now here's the typical protocol for an email flow, okay? So remember that you're not sending emails typically to get somebody to opt in again. They've already opted in. Opting in meaning they've given you their contact information. That's why they're on the list. So typically an email, when they're ready to take action, they don't want to opt in, okay? So what you want to do is you want to take people to calendars, okay? So what you do is you take the lead to the calendar. So they read the email, and then if they're ready to take action, then they book, okay? And then after they book, then that's when you hit them with all these email sequences in the back end as well, okay? We talked about that earlier, the hammer them sequence. But the mistake that I see people make is they run the email, and then they'll take them to like another opt-in page where they got to give us their first name, last name, phone number, email, but it's like they already did that. So like when people are on the list, they're getting information and education from what's in the email. So the way we'll design it is we'll basically go into a business and we'll have the whole email strategy. And then so we'll typically run, again, 5 to 7 emails a week depending on the list size. Okay, and then these emails are all going over to just a LP. So this typical lander. And then what we're doing on that page is we're loading them with social proof. So we're trying to have a bunch of testimonials on this page, okay? Because this person who's on your email list, they're heavily in the consideration stage of marketing. So what we want to do is we want to give them an opportunity to actually schedule and take the communication from email to in-person, from email to a Zoom call. And what they need to see, they've already expressed interest in your offer. That's how they got on the list, okay? If they haven't expressed interest in your offer, then there's a little bit of information about the offer on the LP, and then the next logical thing is to schedule. Again, they don't need to opt in again, but they also want to see social proof at this stage, which is why we load this with typically video testimonial, okay? Now, if you're realizing at this point in the video that your email game just seriously needs work, I encourage you to book a call with us, and we can help walk you through how to implement these email strategies inside of your own business so that you can continue to just cash flow from the bank that you've already built for yourself. So I'll leave a link below in the description if you want to have a call with us and explore any of our programs down there. We have our Accelerator program, which is our agency level program. And we also have Master Clinical Marketing, where we'll actually do a skill and knowledge transfer and teach you guys inside of your own clinic how to implement ads, how to implement emails, all the best practices that you guys can use in-house. So that would be helpful. I'll leave the link below. Now, next up on our to-do list today, we're transitioning over to text marketing. Text marketing is such that it has a very high open rate, 98%. 98% open rate as long as it's a legitimate number. But that power, the 98% open, that comes with responsibility. So a couple words of caution on text, okay? First and foremost, if you're in a specific state like Texas, as of this training, you have to have explicit opt-in language, okay? I'm not going to go into all that because it's not a compliance type call or compliance type video, rather, but you have to have specific opt-in language, and you also have to have opt-out language, and you also have to have quiet hours, okay? Now, not every clinic, or I should say every state requires that, but I just want you to know that text is a little bit more regulated than email because of the 98% open rates. If you think about email, it's kind of like a passive inbox, okay? But if you think about like your text, it's very active. Like, if you have someone's actual direct phone number and you send them a text message, it's like it's a direct line of communication. You send them an email, might end up in spam, might end up over here, but the text is like you're gonna guarantee it gets to them. Now, assuming you have all of your compliance down, because this is not a compliance type video, and again, I'm not a compliance lawyer, so make sure you do all of your discipline when it comes to text marketing in your state before you continue. However, a couple things on your text. Frequency, okay? I like to do anywhere from 1 to 5 a month, okay, depending on your list size. I'm ideally not recommending our clients do more than 1 a week, okay, unless they have a huge list, okay? Okay, so if you do 5 a month, that would assume that your list is huge and that you're just doing basically like, you're doing a blast, but you're segmenting the blast because the list is so big, okay? So 1 a week is typically, if you have a large list, let's say maybe 5K plus. And then I would usually do like 1 every other week, so every other, if you have like maybe like 2K. And then maybe like 1X a month if you're sub 1,000, okay? Because you want to protect the list, especially when you don't have a ton of people on the list, all right? Now, what should you be doing in text messages? Well, a couple things. You have, again, you have your scheduled people. You have your not scheduled. And you have non-buyers. So with the scheduled people, easy, reminders. Okay, we want to get them some reminders for their appointment. That's typically all you're doing via text message. You might use that to make initial contact. Okay, but at the end of the day, you're just doing reminders. They're already scheduled on your calendar. If they're not scheduled, you're doing time-sensitive promos. Now, on the time-sensitive promos, you want to have the offer that you promo be relevant to what they opted in for. Okay, so for example, if somebody opts into your list, let's say you have 2 prongs of your business. You have a pain-based business and you have a wellness-based business, like a med spa or something, okay? And you have no list segmentation. So now all your leads are going into one system. And if you text somebody who opted in for a chiropractic offer, but you send them an offer for a med spa, like a Botox and filler, that's not gonna go good at all, okay? So you gotta have time-sensitive promos, but like they have to be relevant to what the person opted in for. If they get like a random message from you that has nothing to do with what they ever expressed interest in, then what they're gonna do is they're gonna leave the list. They're gonna be like, see ya, not for me, I'm out, stop, unsubscribe, okay? And then you just lost your shot because you sent the wrong message to the wrong person. Now for people who are non-buyers, okay, you wanna keep those people in your world because time may change their situation, okay? So what you wanna do is you just wanna stay in touch, okay? I reach out to people all the time that didn't buy from us, and I'm basically just, at the end of the day, I'm checking in, but I'm not really using that language, right? I might say something to the effect of, hey John, just had a few minutes to get back to you. I know we spoke 3 months ago. You were looking to put some gas on the fire as far as your new patient attraction, but at the end of the day, we weren't able to help you with that. Curious, you ever find a solution or what ended up happening there, okay? Gives you, again, it keeps them thinking about you, keeps them in your world, and if they do decide to eventually choose somebody else, it increases the probability that they choose you, okay? So you wanna stay in their world on the non-buyers. Now, if this type of stuff is resonating with you on the email marketing or any of the lessons that we share here on the channel, I want you to hit subscribe. We are putting out a couple videos a week here on the channel. We're one of the probably most active channels I've found in healthcare marketing right now that's putting out real-time tactical information about what's working that you can implement inside of your clinic very quickly. So if you like what you hear on the channel today, make sure you hit subscribe and you'll be notified every time we put something new out. Now, to wrap up the text conversation, okay? I need you to go into this thinking about your text list as literal gold. Why is it gold? Because of the open rates, okay? So if you treat the list appropriately, with the right frequency, with the right messaging, with relevant messages to what people signed up for, and you do it frequently, you will be able to extract from this pot month after month after month in terms of dollars that return to your business. And when you combine this with your email list, remember, more frequent, okay, it's more passive, higher volume, okay? These two elements both comprise the list. And I believe that the list is the #1 most underutilized asset that any clinic owner has. It is so rare that I speak with somebody and they're actually doing a good email strategy. Not only just the back-end email appointment reminders, but the front-end promos, staying in the world of non-buyers, having conversations with people that ultimately are probably going to buy, but the timing is just off, okay? I see so many people that do not actually use their list to their leverage. So don't be one of them, okay? And so if you like all these ideas and you possibly want us to help you out in building these inside of your own clinic, again, I'll leave some links, in the description below for you guys. You guys are welcome to check those out. Feel free to book a call with us. We're happy to talk shop, do a strategy call with you to see if we can possibly help you with what you may be looking for. Remember, all we do is marketing and acquisition on this channel, that it comprises anything related to ads, email, sales, conversion, and really all different types of just marketing in general. And we take the lessons from our clients and working inside these businesses, and we bring them back to you here on the channel. So I hope you guys got value from today. Make sure you're leveraging your email list. The only disservice you can ever do for us around here is to take the ideas we share and do absolutely nothing with them, okay? So remember, execution is the game, my friends. Ideas are shit. Execution will win every time. All right, my friends, until next time, if you got value, subscribe. Look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.